Welcome to this edition of At the Mic. I'm your host, Keith Malinak. As you can tell, my voice is failing me as we begin the 2021 season of At the Mic. Season number 2. I'm excited to get it started with you, but I will say over a month ago, I had a bad case of COVID-19 and my voice fell victim to it. It almost entirely disappeared and has yet to return to full strength. But that being said, the show must go on. And thankfully, I recorded several conversations for you before I fell ill. And the only elements around those conversations, such as this intro, are going to be affected by these impaired vocal cords of mine that are still healing. So here we are, the very first episode of the 2021 season. And as always, I'm so grateful that you're making time. And I just ask for your patience as I continue to recover. The great thing about podcasts is that you can listen to them whenever you want. It's always a good time. And it's always a good time for American Pride Roasters Coffee. APR Coffee, the inaugural sponsor of At the Mic. We're so excited to have them on board. And they want you to know Fat Tuesday is coming up on February 16th. It's right around the corner. And did you know that there is a coffee for that? See, King Cake. It's a part of the Epiphany celebration, honoring the night the Magi gave their gifts to Jesus. King Cake parties are commonplace along the Gulf Coast from the eve of Epiphany until Mardi Gras. So why not go ahead and order your APR King Cake coffee today and get that taste of a traditional New Orleans treat, where cinnamon and sugar combine with the fresh roasted blend of American Pride Roasters coffee. So please head to aprcoffee.com and enjoy the coffee that I drink while I'm editing this podcast. Use offer code ATM, that's ATM for At the Mic, and you're going to get 10% off your order. Offer code ATM at aprcoffee.com.
You're listening to At the Mic with Keith, an independent podcast production.
Well, first up in this new year is someone who many of you are likely familiar with. He's a guy I worked with at The Blaze, and his name is Brandon Morse. Brandon and I, we talked about everything from the amazing way he got started in the world of political pontification. We touched on Monty Python. We talked a little bit about Napster. You remember that? I learned what a beer burrow is. We were all over the place, I'll be honest with you. But I do think you'll enjoy spending time getting to know Brandon Morse, my first guest of season number 2 here on At the Mic.
Brandon, thanks so much for coming up here and making time. I appreciate it, man.
Dude, anytime, man. I'm happy to do this.
You and I, we have a lot to catch up on.
For sure.
But I just told you before we turned the mics on, I was like, okay, look, I want to catch up with you, but I also want you just to save it for the podcast. So everybody's going to catch up with you at the same time I am. So how about that?
Man, that's killing two birds with one stone.
Right, there you go. See, it's word economy.
Yeah.
You and I used to work together at The Blaze. Tell everybody where they can find you now, because you're off doing bigger and better things now.
Well, yeah, I ended up immediately, and I mean immediately, went to Red State, which I had worked at before I went to The Blaze. And Red State has gone off like a rocket.
Yeah, was Eric Erickson?
No.
It was already after that?
Right, so this is after Eric Erickson,
Okay.
the era of Erickson.
Uh-huh.
And we were in the middle of the Caleb Howe era.
Yeah, okay, yep.
There was a big bloodletting.
Mm-hmm.
And Caleb was one of the casualties. And there was really no managing editor for a while. Eventually, Strife, who had been there for years, took over as managing editor with Jennifer Van Laar as deputy managing editor. And the website began to just take off. And on top of that, they said, hey, Brandon, we want you to run the VIP section, this new VIP section of the website. And I was like, all right, why not? Since then, we've skyrocketed. Like, we keep going up in subscriptions for Red State. Jennifer Van Laar has been one of the best investigative reporters I've ever seen. Strife has a managing style that has really kept this thing going smoothly. And I don't think I've ever been a part of a better website ever. I've loved Red State since I've worked there, and now I just love it even more.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Have you always wanted to be in the realm that you're in right now?
Oh, hell no.
Oh,
No.
Oh.
No, in fact, I always tell people when they ask me, like, no, I'm not supposed to be here. I never once thought, because look, as a kid, in school, I never did my homework. And now it's funny because now it's like God has a sense of humor. Now all I do is homework.
You're making up for lost time.
Exactly. But, I wanted to, I went to school for a while and to be like a graphic artist. I wanted to make video games. I wanted to write video games.
Cool.
That was what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an animator. And so I was into the Art Institute of Atlanta for, a year.
Yeah. When were you there in Atlanta?
Oh, man. I lived in Georgia from my sophomore year of high school all on up to probably my second year of college.
Okay, because I was born and raised in Atlanta, Metro Atlanta,
really?
Cobb County, Marietta.
Oh, yeah.
So what part?
Started in Woodstock and then...
so you were just north of me?
Right. And then eventually went north up to Jasper.
Yeah, Jasper Jeep, baby.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I'm very familiar. What years were you there then?
When did
you remember all
when
this
was
stuff?
I a sophomore in high school? I can't remember now.
Well, how old are you now?
I'm 36.
So you're going to trust me, the master of Keith math, to figure this out. So you're 36. So
I can already guarantee you're better at math than I am.
don't think so. So 84 you were born?
Yep, I was.
All right. So,
see? You're
so
good,
then
man.
94, 04. Okay, so you were early 2000s then in Atlanta.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
well.
the early aughts I was there. Yeah, I ended up dropping out of college and went to Galveston, where I lived.
That's interesting because you were born in Austin.
Right.
But you tell people you're from Galveston.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up then?
Well, I mean, that's such a weird question.
It's not a weird question. It might have a weird
It has
answer.
a weird answer. Right. So, right. I spent a lot of time in Austin. I lived in Austin until I was about, I think I was in 5th grade when I finally moved to Pflugerville up north. Spent time there up until my freshman year of high school.
Okay.
Moved to Woodstock right after that for my sophomore year. And then left Georgia at around like my second year of college. So
Okay.
I think I was like 20.
I got you.
Moved to Galveston, and where I lived probably more time. I've spent more time in Galveston than anything. Moved back to Georgia. Moved to Colorado. Moved back to Galveston, then moved to Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Moved back to Galveston again.
Wow, that's a lot of
And
moving.
then moved to, I was a nomad. I was a
see.
nomad. Yeah.
Because I'm kind of the opposite, born and raised in Georgia and now live in Texas, you know. So, but you kind of did the other thing. But I'm glad you're back here now.
Thanks.
What is Pflugerville famous for anything? I feel like I've heard that.
It's
name.
famous for having a P in the beginning of its name.
That's it.
That's pretty much it.
All right.
It has a pretty badass Dairy Queen too. I
Really?
guess. Oh man, yeah.
Wait a minute. Nobody has gotten on this podcast, and all the people I've talked to and bragged about a town's Dairy Queen. Tell me why.
Oh, dude, like the service there. Well, this is back when I lived there. All right, they knew you the moment you walked in and what you wanted.
It's like Cheers, but ice cream.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, Brandon.
Afternoon, everybody.
And they knew exactly the amount of candy to add into your blizzard. Which is super important.
Yeah.
Super important. All right, I don't care. I'm sorry. It's too many Dairy Queens. You go in there and it's like the candy to ice cream ratio is either way too much or way too little.
Right.
Like it'll be on the top and then it's just nothing but soft serve at the bottom, which look, you're still getting soft serve, but
I see.
you
It's
want
a ratio
the Reese's
thing.
peanut butter cup,
It's a
man.
ratio thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. My wife in high school, she worked at a Dairy Queen, and we can't enter a Dairy Queen establishment without her talking about how great she is at making a blizzard.
Right. Which is worth bragging about. It is.
Okay. Well, there should be some sort of competition.
I think so.
Like a blizzard off.
There really should be. At least here in Texas.
Let's work on that. Yeah, and that's the thing about Texas. We're so big here, and there's so many Dairy Queens that they actually have commercials for just people in Texas.
That's what I like about Texas.
That's right. And there's one county in Metro Dallas-Fort Worth, though, that they just closed them all down.
Oh, yeah.
And that was before the COVID stuff. So I don't know, but I love Dairy Queen.
Oh,
Who
yeah.
doesn't?
I mean, who doesn't?
Yeah. Speaking of, though, the COVID era that we're in now,
Yeah.
that's really affected your life and your plans. Why don't you tell us what you had planned in April of 2020 and what happened?
So I was supposed to get married. Yeah. We planned this amazing wedding. It was supposed to take place at the House of Dirt. Not a huge venue, not a lot of people to be there, but you know, we were cool with that. I liked the idea of like a more family-centric wedding. In fact, I didn't even want the show. I just wanted to say some vows with my family in attendance.
Right. Something
Right.
simple.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. But, you know, it's amazing to me how fast things get away from you when you're planning a wedding and how you can easily go from like $2,000 to $30,000.
I know.
You know, and like, I swear, dude,
You said it.
well, a little bit off topic here. I think the wedding industry is a scam. You know, you attach the word wedding to anything and they up it about $3,000. It doesn't matter what it is, right? So we had this, but regardless, you know, we had this really neat venue. It was really cozy, kind of like boho a little bit. I kind of dug it, you know. Our family was going to be there. We were going to have karaoke, you know, like because I love karaoke.
Yeah,
it's one
man.
of my favorite things.
Sure.
And then we were also going to have a beer burrow. You ever heard of that?
No, but this sounds like my kind of wedding.
It's a donkey that carries beer around in satchels, and then you can take the beer from the donkey.
I want my picture with what is it? A beer
Burrow. That's dude.
burrow.
I was not allowing myself a lot of like, you know, things for myself in this wedding. You know,
Sure.
I wanted to make it all about her and like what she wanted. That's the one thing. That's the one thing I wanted.
Seriously, like if there was like a checklist put in front of you and you probably scanned it. You know when you go to the doctor's office and they're like, do you have any of these symptoms? And you just draw a line. You're like,
Yeah, exactly.
no.
Negative.
Okay, so this one, I can just imagine you had a sheet probably put in front of you with little squares next to all these options. You're just like, no. And then you, wait, whoa. Beer burrow.
Wait,
We're
not
doing
wait,
this.
hang. Whoa.
We're doing this one.
A donkey that carries around beer?
Yeah.
How do I don't think you can say no to that.
Right. That would definitely be, like, if you only could pick one thing to have at the wedding,
Right.
that you had your fingerprints on,
Right.
I could see why you land
That's
on the
it.
beer. It's a beer burrow,
Right.
right? Because the Spanish word for donkey.
Right. It's surprisingly cheap.
Whoa.
$300.
Hold on. Stop for a second. Okay, let's just pretend we're not talking about a wedding.
Okay. All right.
And I'm just hanging out in my backyard.
Right.
I'm literally reading a nerdy book that I enjoy.
Right.
And I'm
right.
let's just say I don't have beer with me at this moment, right?
Correct.
Because the beer burrow hasn't arrived yet.
Right.
Could I just rent out somebody to drop off the beer burrow
Correct.
and just hang out in my backyard like, yo, beer burrow, come here.
Exactly.
Hee-haw. And
Exactly.
He comes over, yeah.
He comes over there, you get your beer, and he just goes and meanders off. He eats some grass.
Is like Juan Valdez walking around with him, leading him around? Or?
I don't, you know what? I think so. I think he does have like a handler that keeps it, because no one wants an out of control beer burrow.
Yeah, that's right, because you
What
didn't get to
happens-
experience it yet. This
Exactly.
is what sucks, man.
Exactly. I'll never know.
What do you mean you'll never know?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to get the beer burrow chance.
So you haven't even gotten married yet?
No. We're probably going to end up eloping at this point.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Okay, well, good luck.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, my wife's a pastor, by the way. If
I
you
know
need-
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just
I
letting you
know that.
But you're only allowed to hire her for this wedding if the beer burrow is still going to be there.
That's like a stipulation.
Because then I'm going to tag along.
Right.
Like, no, I'm her ride. And anyway, I want to see this. I want to see this donkey in action, man.
Dude, I mean, look, we still plan on having a party at some point,
Yeah.
and he might make it.
So you have 5 siblings total, right?
Yep,
Okay.
correct.
And how does that work out? Like, where do you fall on the spectrum there? That wasn't an autism question. by the way. I just want like where do you fall?
I mean,
on
my
the-
brother's probably more autistic than I am.
Okay.
No. I'm the oldest of 5, or out of 6 total. You know, including me. And you know, my mom, she remarried and had 2 kids. My dad remarried and had 3. 2. He only had 3 though, because you know 2 ended up being twins.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's really an interesting dynamic between the 2 families. My mother's side of the family is super into racing,
Okay.
and she married Jake Wallace, who is a descendant of William Wallace.
Oh wow.
Yeah, exactly. Who Bigfoot Wallace is a descendant of William Wallace. You know, so these people are huge, right?
Uh-huh.
You know, they walk around and like they can pick up steel beams with one hand.
My
So
goodness.
both my brother and
you-
my sister.
Yeah.
Of that side of the family are like 80,000 times stronger than I am.
I was gonna say you didn't get that gene.
No,
huh?
I did not. No.
Okay.
If you look at them compared to me, you're like, how the...
Yeah.
So, you know, but my brother, they're so into racing though. My brother ended up being a pit crew member, an over-the-wall pit crew member for Roush Racing
How
at
great is that?
NASCAR. Yeah. My sister, she races trucks,
wow.
and she's like an anesthesiologist.
Is she locally?
No, this is in North Carolina.
Oh, it's all North Carolina.
Yeah, they
Okay.
all moved out to North Carolina because if you're a NASCAR person, that's where you go, right?
Uh-huh.
That's kind of like their Hollywood.
Yeah. And so they're in North Carolina. Your family's in North Carolina.
My mother's is. The rest of my family's in Galveston.
Okay.
From my dad's side where they
Right.
live.
I'll tell you, we lived in Houston.
Yeah.
20 years ago. And Galveston is a godsend if you live in Houston, if you ask me, because it was a great place to escape to. We loved getting down there. Just the town is great, getting down to the ocean and stuff. So we're big fans of Galveston.
Yeah.
There's a fudge factory down there that I can't think of what it's called.
Rocky Mountain Fudge Factory.
Yes.
With the bear out front.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh,
They have the
goodness.
best caramel apples you
Okay.
will ever come across. I love them so much.
Yeah.
But what's also cool about, like, I don't know when the last time you were there, they've got like a beef jerky shop that has like all different kinds of beef jerky there. They've still got La King's, that big candy shop where they hand spin milkshakes and make like what was it, taffy, like right there. You know, like their Strand area in Galveston is just magical.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. It's the tiger butter is what I go for at that Rocky Mountain place.
Yes.
So how often do you get to go back down to Galveston?
Not as often as I'd like. It honestly is one of those things my life has become so busy in Dallas, you know, and it's a 4-hour drive. It's actually not that bad for me. Like I love road trips. I love getting on the road and going. But now with like a fiance and dogs and all that stuff and the fact that, you know, I work non-freaking stop, it kind of just gets difficult to go down there, which is sad because, man, you want a good reset, go home. You know, go back to the place where you were from, like where the people you know, and it doesn't hurt when you're from an island. You know, and you get there and you know you go down the street and there's the ocean right there. You know, there's not a margarita's not that hard to find. You know, or a pina colada if you want one. You know, just and then your family's there and it's just like a nice relaxing time. So you just cross the causeway, that big bridge that leads there, that goes over the water and leads into Galveston, and you just feel your blood pressure decrease.
Yeah, that's
know?
that's a good way to put it. Yeah. Especially, and I don't want to get hung up on my dislike for Houston, but you're absolutely right as far as if you can deal with the traffic on 45 and break through to the other side to Galveston, then it's a happy place for sure. It's definitely
dude, 45 can be a nightmare, but you gotta hit it at the right time.
Yeah, which is what, 2 a.m.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Come on, kids. What is 1:30 a.m.? I know, we want to beat traffic. That's life in Houston right there. So you are engrossed in politics for a living.
Right.
You wanted to design video games.
Right.
So how did you end up writing? What was your first avenue into that realm that you're in now?
Right. So I just kind of stumbled into it. Like I didn't mean to get there. It starts in Galveston, and I was a security guard.
Okay.
I worked as a security guard. My family owned a company, and I was like a manager there.
What year are we talking about?
This was back in 2010.
Okay.
Obama was 2 years into his presidency. Actually, you know what? No, I'm sorry. Let me take that back. This is about 2008 or 9 when he was first elected. I was in a guard shack, in like a little shack by the sea. You know, and I would let rich people into their gated community.
Nice.
That was my entire job. And I would sit in this box, and you do not like, man, the sitting in a box by yourself for hours on end can really screw with you. You know, like you go through weird emotional swings. You know, you're like, oh, I'm really happy, woo, and then like, oh my god, I'm so depressed. You have nothing but your thoughts.
What time of day was the shift?
This was from about 7 a.m. to about 6.
Okay.
So it was like it was
at least there was daylight.
Right, there was daylight, but also what really sucked is like it was only fun in like fall and winter because during the summer, the way they designed the guard shack, the air conditioner in there hit the ceiling and it was horribly designed. So I got nothing, and I'm sitting here in this polyester uniform all day long, sweating. I would get home, and you don't take this polyester uniform off; you peel it off. It was the worst. It would smell so bad, but anyway. The you would sit there with nothing to do, right? Okay. Nothing. So you would try to find things. You would buy box sets of like various shows that you might like. Like I loved Scrubs or South Park or, Aqua Teen Hunger Force, whatever I could get. And when you started getting bored of shows, you would read books, or if you got tired of reading books, you would do puzzles. But anyway, I started getting into Twitter around that time. And around also that time, I was reading books and watching documentaries about stuff like North Korea, Nazi Germany. Like, I got into the history big time, but something fascinated me about dictatorships and this mentality that surrounded them. And as I'm listening to Obama speak from time to time as he was running, that sounds exactly like something I heard, in one of these books that I read. That's really crazy to me. And I started looking up his socialistic attitudes towards stuff, and it started to freak me out. And what I would do is, in order to kind of appease my brain and make me feel more at ease, I would start writing on my Facebook. Remember, like, Facebook had notes that you can make?
Yeah.
So I would write Facebook notes. And I would publish them to my follower, the people who followed me, and and I would like do these little things on Twitter, and I had like no followers at the time, none. And next thing I know,
Which, by the way, let's get a plug in real quick. Where can people find you on Twitter, for example?
At the Brandon Morse.
At the Brandon Morse. Okay.
Yeah.
Morse.
Yeah.
Okay.
But little did I know is that, funny enough, people were actually reading my Facebook notes. And they were actually kind of enjoying them. And I didn't even know to look, but back then, you click to your mentions and stuff. It didn't really tell you when you were getting mentions back then on Twitter. But suddenly I clicked there and people were like responding to the things that I would type. And I was like, oh, wow, this is cool. And I would start interacting with them. And so some, conservative website at one point in time reached out to me and they were like, hey, do you want to write for us? And I was like, yeah, why not? So, I would write these articles that I would usually be writing Facebook notes for. And I noticed that maybe it's my personality, but I don't like being pushed back on. I don't like being like told like, hey, what you just wrote, I don't like it. Can you restructure it? I hate it. It's like, no, I wrote that. And that's how I want to come off. All right. And my philosophy was, look, if you want me to write for you, then you want me to write. You don't want me to be another brick in the wall.
All right.
So anyway, I continued down this kind of path where I would write for various little websites here and there. I got invited to write at futurevoicesofamerica.com by some kids who were starting up their own thing. But the same thing always followed me around. I noticed that I did not like being edited. And by edited, I don't mean like, go ahead and correct my grammar and stuff, or if I have misplaced a punctuation point somewhere, fix it. But don't tell me what I have to say and how I can say it.
Change my ideas.
I don't like that.
Yeah,
like that really turns me off.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah. And eventually it got to the point where I was writing for everyjoe.com. And I got there because at that point in time, I had been writing about politics for a few years. I'd started my own website. I started misfitpolitics.com, or .co, I should say, because I got tired of being told what to do. And I wanted to do my own thing. And at that point, I thought, we're so stuffy. The conservative movement. We're so stuffy. We need to learn to laugh. We need to learn to mock. Like, it wouldn't hurt for us to adopt some of the Alinskyite stuff that the left does to us. All right? It wouldn't hurt. Yeah, like he was a bad guy. He thanked Satan, like but look, some of the stuff that he understands wasn't necessarily about leftism or rightism. It was about human psychology, and we could probably stand to learn some of it. So we created, me and a few of my friends that we got together. We created misfitpolitics.co, and we ended up releasing our first video called Attack Watch. And Attack Watch, which was created by Ezra Doulis, made fun of the website that the Obama administration had created called Attack Watch, where basically if anybody said anything bad about Obama, you were supposed to...
It was like a tip line.
Right. You tell them, and then they will address it. And so we decided to create Attack Watch, and Attack Watch blew up. It went viral. It was featured on Fox News. Michelle Malkin couldn't stop talking about it. So, after a few years of that, however, it was all voluntary work. It was never paid. I never made a dime off of it. I decided like, hey, I should probably stop playing around with this thing. And I have no business mind. I'm a creative. And so I decided to close it down. And around that time, I started saying, all right, maybe it's time. Politics isn't making me happy. I need to get out and get back to what I love, which is, cultural stuff. Video games, movies, that kind of thing.
And you had still, at this point, were entertaining the thought of designing video games, or had you moved on?
No, at this point in time, I knew that I was a writer.
Okay.
And that, you know, I have more of that under my belt. And you know, I didn't ever finish at Art Institute of Atlanta. I didn't have a degree.
Do you ever get to use your art talents in anything?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I do now. So I decided that I wanted to try out to work at The Escapist. And around this time, Gamergate was happening. I don't know if many people remember Gamergate, but it was like one of the biggest cultural wars we'd ever seen in America. And during Gamergate, I had made friends with Alexander McCrease, who was at the time the managing editor of The Escapist, one of the most popular cultural websites in America. And after talking to him for a little while, I asked him, hey, I would love to write a column for you guys. And he said, absolutely. And so he announced on Twitter, hey, Brandon Morse is joining us. And it was one of the greatest days of my life. I was so happy. I was like, man, finally, you know, I can get out of politics. I was never supposed to be here in the first place. Now I'm getting to what I want. Well, God has a sense of humor. God did not agree with me. He said, no, you're a political writer.
Uh-oh.
So once he announced on Twitter that happened, the social justice left combed through every little bit of my writing, any videos that I made, any podcasts, everything. And they could only settle on one thing. And it was something that I said about the transgender community, where I said, hey, if you want to be transgender, that's fine, but do not expect everyone else to pretend along with you. Exactly. Not that
What?
Not that bad, right?
Okay,
It was
yeah.
it's basically me saying, hey, you live your life and let other people live theirs.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was not okay to say. And they launched this campaign where they effectively contacted McCrease nonstop. They hounded his Twitter. They hounded the people who owned the company that owned The Escapist at the time, which was Defy Media. Contacted the CEO and all this stuff and made all these threats. We're never going to read this again. You had people at The Escapist quitting because, it was bad. Eventually,
come on.
Eventually, Defy contacted Alexander McCrease and said, hey, this guy can't write for you. you gotta like ditch him.
And what year was this?
This was in 2015.
Okay.
And Alexander said, I don't have a choice, man. I'm so sorry. Like, you know, we have to make sure that you can't write at The Escapist. But what we can do is send you to our sister site. And it's a political site. I was like,
Wonk wonk.
what is it? And he's like, Every Joe. You can write at everyjoe.com and you can have a column there. I was like, fine.
All right.
So I wrote there for a while. The good thing is I got some really good political writing under my belt there, you know, and it's like some real writing that got noticed. It didn't hurt that the Gamergate crowd still followed me and shared my stuff around. And, you know, it just kind of fell into place and eventually got to a point where Every Joe, it just wasn't keeping up with me. You know, there wasn't a lot there. And they were losing money because it wasn't exactly like the best run website. I asked Caleb Howe at the time, or Leon Wolf, who was running Red State at the time, and I met him at a CPAC. You know, I did a lot of networking. I did a lot of these things. I asked him at the time, do you guys have an opening? And the moment that I asked Leon, Caleb Howe learned, who I'm friends with, learned that I was asking, and he told Leon, look, we've got a stack of people here, but you hire him. Hire him. And he did. And I became number one at the website pretty quickly and stayed number one up until I left for the Blaze. And that's where you met me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that was a long-winded story, but
no, that's a lot. I mean, everything's connected. Everything's tied together.
Yeah.
So you were at the Blaze and tell everybody what it is that you're doing today,
right?
Where they can find you and all of your writings.
Right. So, I went to the Blaze because Leon wanted me to follow him there, and I did. Did not exactly have the best time at the Blaze, mainly because of the problem that I had with all the other websites. You know, I wanted to be able to write as Brandon Morse, but I wasn't able to write as Brandon Morse there. You know, and it was just very annoying. And yeah,
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, you know, it happens. But, you know, to the Blaze's credit, they allowed me to create my own video series and stuff. That's not racist and that's not sexist, which, you know, because I like to stir the pot.
Yeah.
And, you know, Dana, she had me on her show constantly as a guest, as she always had. You know, Dana Lash and I are pretty tight, and I'm super, super grateful to have her there. But eventually the great bloodletting happened. That's what I call it.
Yeah.
But in any case, immediately went to Red State. The VIP thing happened. You know, we grew and grew and grew. And now I create videos for Red State. I'm the head of VIP there. And, you know, I write prolifically. And, you know, now on top of that, you know, we've become so successful and you know, all this great stuff. It's just up and up and up for us right now. And I thank God for that, too. You know, it's been a blessing. So.
And you're happy here in Dallas then?
Yeah.
Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, what you do, you could do from anywhere.
Oh,
correct?
for sure. Yeah. No,
So-
I work from home.
That's great.
You know, and
really
that has been also a blessing in and of itself.
You've had other jobs in your life. You sold cameras. What kind of cameras were you selling?
So I worked at Wolf Camera when I was.
Oh, Wolf Camera.
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
mall and everything.
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, I worked in the mall and then like, you know, independent stores. This is back when in Woodstock.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you were at Town Center Mall.
Yes, I was, dude.
Boom.
You know what's up, man.
Of course, I told you I was born and raised in Cobb County.
Yeah, I worked at the Wolf Camera. I was hired on as a seasonal hire, and they were like, "Hey, we like you. You want to stay?" I was like, "Man, why not?"
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I was hired as a seasonal hire for Radio Shack, and I was let go on December 31st. But I digress.
I have a habit of getting hired for seasonal work and then being asked to stay. I'm not bragging on myself, but you know, I'm
Yeah.
just saying.
No,
the same
no.
thing happened at GameStop. I'm just saying.
No, my egregious sin against the company, and I'm sure people have heard this before, so I'll make it quick. But I just refuse to ask people for their phone numbers when they try to buy a battery at Radio Shack.
Yeah, I hate that.
And so I would just tab. Thank you so much. Anyway, so I got pulled aside on December 31st, and I was told, look, you were hired as seasonal. We're going to keep everybody but two. You're one of the ones we're letting go. And I said, okay, cool. And it's because you falsified company records. I'm sorry, what?
Wow.
I falsified company records? Yeah, there's just a bunch of zeros on all the customers that you've checked out at the register. All right there.
Well, you know what? They're closed.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
who's got the last laugh,
That's
Keith?
right. That's right. Tell me about being a deckhand on a boat. What was that all about?
That was like a week-long venture for me. Like I was in need of a job because I had just moved back to Galveston and I had nothing. You know, and they were like, "Why don't you go work at the Walmart or do something?" I was like, "I don't want to work at a Walmart. I want to do something like that. Really." It makes me think that, you know, there's either A, a future, or B, is an adventure. And, you know, so we had a buddy in Galveston at the time who ran a crew boat company, you know, so their whole entire job was to take stuff from land and deliver it out to like rigs or you know, cruise ships and stuff like that. And so for a week, I learned how to be a deckhand, you know, and it was crazy. Let's say that. You know, hanging out with sailors is interesting.
When I think deckhand, I just think cleaning up messes.
Yep.
And
That's
like
part of it.
mopping and just...
That's part of it. Yeah.
And you did it for a week?
Yeah. I did it for about 1 week. And then I was like, you know, I don't know if this is for me. So I kind of...
for me.
Right. So I dropped out.
Okay.
And, you know, ended up on this long, crazy journey with, you know, we ended up becoming a security agency and all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing if you ever take just a moment. Perhaps you're sitting in the backyard waiting for the beer burrow to come back around, and you just think, wow, my life has meandered so much.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, I've never been able to sit still.
Yeah.
You know, I've always wanted, this is the first time in a long time that I've really settled down. But, you know, I would I take a lot of this back? I don't think so, man. I love living with little. You know, it really puts your brain in perspective. You know, like I was in Colorado, I was a political tracker. You know, it was my
What does that mean?
It was my job to take a camera down to legislative hearings or, you know, activist group meetings if I was allowed in and film it. And then I would report on it and it was, when I was in Colorado, I lived right behind the Capitol in Denver in this apartment.
What year?
So I think it was 2014.
Okay. Yeah. So you always end up back in Texas.
Yes, always do. But yeah, that Colorado apartment was like literally a concrete box, man. It was an efficiency. Like I had nothing. I had a bed and I didn't even have a nightstand. I didn't have like a thing, like an entertainment center for my TV. It was literally on the floor. I had just learned to start cooking for myself at that point in time. Like living with little really puts things in perspective. And there are times that, if I wasn't with my fiance, if God forbid anything happened to her and I had to go back to being single, that's probably how I would live.
So when did you meet her?
I moved here.
And where?
2017.
Wow.
And I moved here and I got on Bumble, as one does nowadays.
Yeah.
And she was the first person that I swiped right on.
Huh.
The first person who responded,
Wow.
the first person I went on a date on, and the last person.
Look at that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That really dampens the blow of hearing, I got on Bumble. And then you finish it up with all that, and you're like, oh, okay, well, happy story. Okay, we're good. No, that's cool.
No, yeah.
And what does she do? Is she into politics too? Or?
No. No, she is not. In fact, she and I actually, what makes us work is the fact that both of us like a challenge.
Oh.
So she is not necessarily full lefty, but she has some lefty stuff going on.
Okay.
The first time she ever voted was for Hillary Clinton. But she is...
How are those conversations?
You know what? At first, they were real tense. Because I am a very opinionated person, and I will tell you why you're wrong, and I'm not letting... I'm like a dog. Like, I if I sink my teeth into it, I ain't letting go.
That's fun.
But no, you know what? Over time, we've started to see each other's points of view, and we've both mellowed out, and it's good. I think it's healthy, to be honest with you, that you have someone there who challenges you, and whom you can teach in response. And she has changed, I have changed, so we're both pretty. Now, I'm still, don't get me wrong, I'm still a conservative, and I'm not letting that go. I'm a conservative libertarian, but it's good to see the other side and know it.
So the two of you have dogs. Did y'all adopt them together, or did you bring them into the relationship separately, or what? You have two dogs.
Lilo, the long-haired Chihuahua, is hers. She's had her. That is a 12-year-old dog who looks like a puppy, perpetually. But she had Lilo for years and years and years and years and years, and brought that into the relationship. It was funny. She was really an open book, but the one thing that she would not introduce me to for a long time was Lilo. She wanted to make sure that I was trustworthy before she brought Lilo into the relationship.
Oh, wow. Wow. Now, because Chihuahuas, I have a Chihuahua Beagle mix that we love.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah. And, for the most part, she's got the Beagle personality.
Oh, really?
But if someone comes around that she doesn't care for, then the Chihuahua in her comes out.
She'll let you know.
Was your fiance's, and what is her name?
Caitlin.
Caitlin. Okay, so was Caitlin's hesitance to introduce you, it was because Lilo has attitude issues with strangers? Or?
No, not even. I mean, like she'll.
So it had nothing to do with Lilo. It had everything to do with you.
Right. Exactly. Was I the trustworthy party here? Am I trustworthy enough to take care of this dog? And so it was funny that, it took her a while to do it, but you know what? It just shows you how much that she loves that dog and how important things are to her that really matter. So it was charming to me, really.
Yeah. Tell us the name of your golden retriever.
Remington Six Guns.
How'd you get that name?
Because I am obsessed with the Civil War era Remington revolvers.
Okay.
If you've seen them before, if you've seen like, let's see. Did you see the Gunslinger, like the Dark Tower with Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba, which is supposed to be Stephen King's? It's from that Stephen King novel, and I really loved these novels.
Okay,
but now that I'm trying to talk to you about it, I can't think of it. But in any case, because that always happens to me.
Yeah.
Like the two guns that he uses, the Gunslinger, the two that he uses are those guns in particular, and so I became obsessed with them. I want them for myself. They're $600 right now if you want to buy them online. But I love the beauty, the design. And whenever we adopted the dog, we were trying to go through names. And that one popped up in my head. What about Remington? And she was like, oh, I love it so much. I didn't tell her it was because of Remington 6 Guns.
Oh, no. You tell her 6 months later.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of popped that out later. I was like, yep. Oh, Remington 6 Guns. I named him after this gun right here.
So wait. When you're at the dog park or something and you're trying to get his attention, you don't yell like, yo, Remington 6 Guns, come on. You just sell Remington?
Remy.
Okay. Remy.
We call him Remy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk about music.
Yes, please.
You enjoy the Midnight?
Yes.
What is the Midnight?
It is a retro-sounding synthwave band that though you are pretty sure that you've heard their music in a 1980s movie somewhere that you can't place. I guarantee you it was only written recently.
Okay.
And it was made recently, and it has just enough nostalgia factor to make you feel good, but enough newness to make you feel like this needs to be played on the radio today.
So
it's original in and of itself. It's amazing.
is it just instrumental or
Nope.
Okay,
No.
they got a singer and everything.
Oh,
I'll
yeah,
check
yeah,
it
yeah.
out.
Tyler Lyle is the
Okay.
the singer songwriter for The Midnight, and honestly, whenever you leave or whoever listens to this podcast, once it's done,
Yeah.
go to Spotify, look up The Midnight, listen to songs
will.
like Los Angeles
Oh, okay.
or Jason, or listen to songs like America 2.
Okay.
And
I'm writing all this down.
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
love new music.
Dude, yes. Listen to all that and then just like sit back and just like enjoy it, like feel it. Like honestly, I can't. When I remember when I first discovered them, it was a rainy night and I was sitting in my office and I have like this computer that glows all sorts of neon,
Mm-hmm.
and I just remember just like sitting in there listening to the rain, listening to this music and just like being transported. And it was as corny as all of this sounds, just trust me,
I will.
Okay.
I'm gonna check that out, and I also want to check out Lord Huron.
Yes.
But what
My
should
other
I?
favorite
Give me
band.
3 songs from Lord Huron to check out.
So my 3 favorite songs from Lord Huron are Meet Me in the Woods,
Okay.
Frozen Pines, and gosh, it's so crazy to
You gotta
name.
pick one.
Yeah, I know, I got to. Because I can just I also Secret of Life is one of my favorites. Yeah.
Okay. So, what kind of music is that?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's so hard to
It's
explain.
just- okay,
It's
we'll check it
definitely like indie rock.
Okay.
Oh,
that sounds good.
Yeah, it's indie rock. It brings it a little rockabilly sometimes, a little bit of instrumental, just kind of like it's all over the place, but it's so original, and it too will it literally is meant to take you on a journey because the guy who writes it, he's telling you a story with every album, and so it's just. It's amazing. Now these are The Midnight and Lord Huron couldn't be more different, but I love both of these bands.
That's good. And I love the other answer under the music question that I've not received on the email that I send out. Gregory Alan Isaacoff. Just a great artist.
Yes.
And his album, That Sea, the Gambler.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I saw your answer here, I thought, first of all, that's awesome that somebody else put him on there. But that album, that's great in your face music. That's great background music.
Yep.
That's any setting whatsoever.
Yep.
That album works.
Yep.
I've used it working in the yard. I've used it reading. it's just.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so
I came in on Evening Machines.
Okay.
His album Evening Machines, and I immediately it was like fate. I heard them for the first time because I was introduced to it by a buddy named Michael Deppish, and I fell in love with him immediately. And literally that weekend, he was coming to Dallas.
oh, how fortuitous!
Dude, I was like freaking out. I was like, oh my god, we gotta go. My fiance's like, I don't even know who this is. We get there, and I'm seriously just like, it's just so good.
It was a great concert.
It was a great concert.
Yeah.
Like this guy is so talented.
Yeah, I'm counting here. Yeah, it's only 11 tracks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like it when bands give us like 10. I want 14.
Yes.
I want a minimum of 14 tracks on an album.
Yeah.
Which kids are listening, what's an album? And just stream the next CD, stream the next, I guess it would be called an album, right? But anyhow, when you would buy a CD, remember we'd buy $18, $20 at Best Buy.
Oh yeah, and those big, thick, the cases there.
Oh
that were
the security
They
things.
looked like DVD cases at the time.
Yeah. Remember the little lock at the cashier? They'd have to unlock it from the plastic before you could leave the store with it.
Yep.
But you'd always be disappointed if it didn't have at least 14 tracks on it.
Exactly.
At least me.
But Billy Corgan, formerly Smashing Pumpkins, he kind of called it a long time ago.
What did he say?
He basically said that, look, the age of the album, and this I think was back in 2005, 6, like early, before Apple iTunes became super big. He said, he's like, the age of the album is over.
Wow.
Because everything's going to come down to being singles now. Like, you don't have to release an album. You just create one good song, release it on the internet, and you make buku bucks. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
He was right.
Yeah. Wonder where the kid who started Napster is today.
Oh man, where is? Yeah, it's a good
Should
question.
I Google that right
Do
now?
it, man. Let's
Okay.
find out.
All right, so you tell everyone who you would like to go back and see, meet in history. Your answer being George Washington. Why is that?
George Washington I relate to him a lot. And not because he was called the best among men and stuff like that. That's not why I relate to him. I relate to him because he's a loser. Yeah.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
I relate to him because he's a loser. He is a loser. He hardly won any military engagements that he was a part of. He was
Okay.
rejected from the British Army. Okay. He's for all intents and purposes, he was kind of a tryhard.
Okay.
But you know what? He never gave up. And because of that, he ended up founding an entire country. You know, he was well respected by his men. His friends loved him because he was a stand-up guy. And I try to, he's just proof that even if you are a loser, if you try and try and try again,
Yeah.
you will succeed at some point in time. And who knows how big you can succeed if you just keep trying.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that about him. He never gave up.
And there's something else there that I'm sure you are well aware of. I mean, he was such a mama's boy.
Yeah.
And-
I am too.
Yeah, and that he didn't get on the boat to join the British Navy because he didn't want to disappoint his mom, and his mom didn't want him to leave and all that stuff. But you're right. By making that choice, he stayed back, and one thing led to another, and he ended up being the father of the greatest country to ever exist.
Exactly.
Okay, so I've never heard that phrase. George Washington was a loser, but you've heard it here from Brandon Morse said that. I was merely quoting.
I'm going to get some angry tweets and emails now. It's like, how dare
I
you?
was just trying to quote
How
the man.
dare you
Yeah.
say that? No, I mean, like, look at his history, man. And
No, you're right about the military stuff for sure. Yeah, I mean, he's...
But yeah, the thing that, I don't want people to think I'm insulting the guy. I look up to him more than most people I have ever heard of. Because he is the image of perseverance. And I feel like we've lost sight of that. We live in a generation now where people are like, oh, I'm not very good at this. I'm putting it down. Well, why'd you pick it up in the first place? Mm-hmm. Remember why you picked it up. And don't think that, just because you didn't win immediately that or weren't good immediately that you have to put it down. Like it's not made for you. We the whole idea that you're meant for this or destined for this, like I don't buy it. I think that if you want something and you want to go get it, then go get it. You're going to fail. And keep in mind that you failing isn't you failing for good. It's you failing because you're learning. And be okay with learning. Be okay with not knowing. Be okay with looking stupid sometimes because you're going to if you truly believe in the thing that you're going after. And Washington believed in the thing that he was going after. And even though he suffered these unbelievable, miserable losses and moments where, things were at their worst and the British Army had him against a wall. And
Embarrassments.
Absolute embarrassment. They were laughing at him. His own people were like questioning him. He kept going. And you know what? Because he persevered, and it should be honest, we didn't win the war against the British Army. We just outlasted them. We made it so that they could, like the attitudes back home and all the money they were spending, it was too much. And Washington won because he persevered over the British Army. He defeated the world's greatest military force by saying, I'm not going anywhere. What are you going to do?
So true.
Yeah.
Very good. So here we go.
Okay.
I looked him up.
Okay.
The Napster founder,
Hit me.
Sean Parker.
Uh-huh.
Does that name ring a bell?
No.
No. Okay.
I just wanted to hear Metallica, man. That's back in the day.
Uh-huh. So he founded Napster, as you know.
Yep.
And let me just give you a quick thumbnail sketch of his life. He was born in 1979.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't go past high school as far as education.
Mm-hmm.
Created Napster, as you know.
Right.
Today, he's worth $2.6 billion.
Good for him.
And he serves as a board member on Yammer and Spotify.
Good for him.
So look at that.
You know what? That makes me happy.
Yeah.
That really makes me happy.
I love stories like that.
Oh, me too. I especially love, stories about successful college dropouts because I am one, and especially successful high school dropouts because I'm also one of those. So it's perseverance, man.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. That was Sean Parker. I got more for you.
Uh-oh.
He was just a co-founder of Napster.
Uh-huh.
Sean Fanning.
The Shawns.
Yeah, the Shawns. I mean, we're educating, at least I'm educating myself.
Right. History lesson.
Thank you, Wikipedia. Sean Fanning is the American computer programmer, entrepreneur, angel investor. He developed Napster.
Yeah.
So is he the first one, or everyone's going to listen to this and then be like, you guys are so dumb. How do you not know this? So anyway, this guy, Sean Fanning, I don't know, we're just learning on the fly. I didn't want to stop and just read everything for you.
Yeah.
So he was the lead software engineer. He's only worth a mere $124 million.
What a loser.
Right?
Who cares about this guy?
And he dropped out of Northeastern University. He's
Yeah.
from Brockton, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
So I wonder what he does today. Like, because his Wikipedia
He's
is not long.
you know what he does?
Yeah, he counts his money.
Exactly. That takes a lot of time.
Right. They got $124 million. Let's see. Yeah, he just he decided to invest in other companies, and
There's all sorts
Sit
of people
back.
from like back in the day that are like Tom. You remember Tom from MySpace?
hold on a second.
How's he doing?
He's the one. Sean, I think, was the first one on that one. What's Tom's last name?
I have no idea.
It's just Tom
It's
from
just
MySpace.
Tom.
Yeah.
It's just MySpace
Yeah.
Tom, man.
He's 50 now.
Is he?
Yeah, I just saw a thing recently.
I didn't realize he was that much older than
Yeah.
I am. Like
Yeah.
I'm surprised how young he is.
Back in November, he turned 50.
Good for him. You
Yeah.
know what? I hope he's doing great.
What do you think he's worth?
I'm gonna guess he sold MySpace for quite a chunk of change.
Didn't he sell that to Rupert Murdoch or somebody?
I thought he sold it to Yahoo, didn't he? Am I wrong?
I don't know. Let's find out what he's worth. Hang on.
This is this I feel like we're like Facebook stalking.
What a loser.
Yeah, what a
60
loser.
million.
Oh, he has $60 million.
That's it? Come on.
Oh, I can go to Sonic for a double. You know.
That's about right, too. Okay. Under the question, what cheers you up, you put Monty Python movies.
Yeah.
Has that become kind of a generational thing, or is that more I'm so surprised by so many people that don't get references and stuff. Now, I'm not a Monty Python guy, okay? So
Right.
please just understand that out of the gate. But my goodness, when you don't know, the Holy Grail movie,
Right.
and can't quote that, then I look at you, I don't know, I'm really suspicious. I'm kind of like Lilo, like
Exactly.
Okay.
I consider Monty Python, especially Monty Python's Holy Grail, and I'll go back and I'll watch, their TV show, that's or Secret of Life, like these little things that to me are required viewing for anybody with a sense of humor, because really Monty Python to me started a whole like a slew of American comedy that today we still reference back on, but have no idea that we are doing that.
Tell me about that.
Well, like look at Monty Python's Holy Grail. You have these silly situations with these silly people. Nothing is taken seriously whatsoever. They intersperse, like funny little, like, oh, hey, we're in the medieval times. Yeah, but this is being told by a guy in modern times. Oh, but a medieval guy just killed this guy. And at the very beginning, they meander off into like, oh, we're talking about what's going on. We're setting the scene with text, explanatory text. But we're going to talk about moose like a lot. And we're going to fire the people who are talking about moose, but then those people are going to start. Like these, it's just silly stuff like this. And then today you look around and you're like, what are the greats today? South Park, Family Guy, The Simpsons. Just these weird comedies that honestly, you would not have them today if Monty Python had not been around then,
That's an interesting point.
And so to me, if you really want to get on like the ground floor of the kind of comedy that we today use, go back and watch any Monty Python movie, whether it be, The Life of Brian or, The Circus, like just go watch it.
Yeah.
And tell me like, oh, I get it now. I see where we came from. These are our roots.
And I was looking up when you were talking there, you said these skits or these moments that just have nothing to do with anything, they were the first. And it occurred to me, I wonder when Saturday Night Live started compared to that. Anyway, both years, 1975. April was Holy Grail.
Right.
SNL was in October of 75. When did they start making stuff? Any idea?
Monty Python?
Yeah.
I think it was somewhere back in like the early 60s, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
Because they were a troupe before they were like big and famous, obviously.
Okay, because that was their first movie, but they were still doing stuff
Right. Before that, there was like
educate
Flying
me,
Circus.
Yes,
You know,
okay, so-
and they had
I
that
gotcha.
skit show. And then before that, they were, just a comedy troupe that
That's so cool.
got famous in Britain.
See,
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. I think they are
Yeah.
easily, you could argue,
They are the
they're
founders of
seed
modern
for-
comedy.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so cool. I've never thought of that. Thank you. Let's see here. Earliest memory.
Okay, so I was 4. And I was at a daycare. And there was this kid who I had befriended. I can't remember his name now. I feel so bad. But I was 4, so maybe I should give myself a break.
I mean, the fact that you remember the story itself
Yeah.
is impressive.
But I can remember sitting in this class with this kid, and it was dark outside because it was winter. My mother hadn't come picked us up yet. It was around like 5 or 6, and this kid and I were just sitting here talking, and he was talking about this dream he was having, or he had last night, and he said a lion came in my dream and attacked me, and I said, "Is that lion going to come out of your head?" I was concerned that this lion was going to escape this kid's head and kill us. Because kids are stupid.
Right. Well, sure. I got news for you. We're all stupid to one degree or
Yeah.
another.
Sometimes I wonder, like, if we actually did live to, like, let's say 5,000 years old, and we looked back at ourselves like, when I was 36.
When I was 212,
Yeah.
man, I was just
What an idiot.
Yeah, right. So you were frightened that this lion was gonna come out.
For someone, I don't know why I thought that. I'd never witnessed that in my entire 4 years of existence. Given I was only conscious maybe for
Right.
a year of that. Like actually like learning and remembering things like I should.
How
But I've
long?
always been super imaginative ever since I was a kid. So I would imagine these weird things happening, and I was like convinced that they were going to happen.
So let's explore this. How much were you in like a daycare setting or something like that? Because I spent a lot of my childhood at places like that.
Oh, same. I grew up, in the care of people who clearly didn't want to be there.
And didn't want you there either.
Exactly. I was a pain with the exception of a few teachers. Like, you could tell that they were just there for the paycheck. But every now and again, this one teacher would come along, and even as a kid, man, if they were even remotely young or good looking, I would have these huge crushes. And I swear, dude, the reason I had it was because it's like, oh my God, you actually care about me. You care about me, and I love you.
Yeah.
I can remember one day in daycare, there was this game. Remember War? How you had to lay down, like I gave this teacher, like I was one of the last kids to be picked up, and it was just me and this teacher, and we were gonna play a game of War. Okay. And as a show of me, and my crush on you and stuff like that, I gave her all the good cards so that she could win every time.
Did she know you had set it up like that? Could she tell?
Oh yeah, she knew.
Okay.
She knew. I mean, I straight up told her.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm smooth like that.
Did she appreciate it?
Oh, she thought it was sweet. And I was like, yeah, that's right. That's right, girl. So, but like I mean, it sucked. I got beat up a lot, because I was a weird kid. I still I'm a little weird today.
I mean, I wasn't going to say that to your face. No. So, okay, yeah.
But, I got picked on a lot and beat up. And so I spent a lot of my time in situations where I just did not want to be there,
Yeah, I understand.
And so these teachers that really did care were like beacons of light. And it was really nice to have these teachers because they really kind of taught me, like, not everyone is a giant piece of crap. There are people out there who are genuinely good people. And so it's a good life lesson for a small kid to learn. Like, the world can be dark and nasty and lonely, but you know what? There are people out there who really care.
Yeah.
And you should find those people.
Right. And there's been a very few handful in my own life, teachers that I've really connected with over the years that I've thought, man, I wonder what they ended up doing. I wonder, what they're doing now. The problem is when you try to Google them, like I'm not going to put I'm going to put Mr.
Yeah.
Mrs. I never learned their first name.
Yeah, Miss Nieto.
Right.
My first grade teacher, Miss Nieto. Yeah. Don't ask me her first name. Yeah, I have no idea.
Where's Miss Watley? And if she got married, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's impossible to track these people down.
What happened to Miss Carbajal? I don't know, man.
I don't know. Got no results on Google.
Exactly.
So, let's see here. Who in your life has had the biggest impact on you, would you say?
Yeah, so that's a two-part question, or a two-answer question.
Okay.
Let's say that. So in terms of like who immediately had the most effect on me, it would be my dad. Because I'm a child of divorce, and my dad was this like mythical hero because I lived with my mom, and so my dad was this kind of like far off figure that I would idealize, and he, every time I would go hang out with him, we would do all this fun stuff. He'd teach me these things that only a dad would really teach, and moms would do this.
Still in the same town, though.
Yes,
Right? Okay,
we all lived in Austin at this point
Okay.
in time, and I would see him like every other weekend or so,
Okay.
and he just like I would worship this guy, and I would like it's both good and bad. Look, it's good for a kid. It's at that age to worship the dad, like to look up to for a boy, I think that's pretty normal. Whenever you are in a situation of divorced parents and your parents have already remarried and all that stuff, it becomes it can be a little dangerous because now I'm blaming my stepdad because my dad's not around, that kind of stuff. But in any case, throughout my life, I kind of maintained that even well into adulthood when I learned that my dad wasn't a superhero, he was just a drunk with a cape. I'm kidding. He's not a drunk. But no, he's a great guy. He's a police officer. He's a retired police officer now. But some of the greatest lessons I've ever learned were from him. He would take me out to do things that, were just, he would let me ride along in his car, in his patrol unit. And I would see things that most people do not, they go their entire lives without seeing. But I thought that now I'm glad I saw them because they're important lessons to learn. He would take me out flounder gigging in Galveston canals, and to be a part of that, like nature and to hunt and stuff like that. I feel like every kid needs to be a part of that in some way, shape, or form. They need to learn it. Because he not only taught me how to hunt, he taught me conservation, how to respect your environment without being a wackadoo about it. Yeah, exactly.
That's a nuance that seems to be lost.
Exactly. Yeah. He taught me a lot about faith, a lot about, respect for women and, all that good stuff. And these are things that I feel like many people can really only learn from their dad, and I'm glad that he was there to teach me that and that I had the ability to receive those lessons because, I feel bad for a lot of people who grow up and they hate their dad. They hate their parents, for one reason or another. I don't know why, but the fact that I had this vision of my dad the entire time made me receptive to these lessons, and I'm glad that I have them. Now, as for, not immediate, the person that I feel like had a huge impact on my life is probably C.S. Lewis. Yeah,
and you mentioned your dad and faith there. Is he the one that introduced you to C.S. Lewis or somebody else? How did you discover C.S. Lewis then?
That would be my grandma.
Okay.
My grandma, who was a huge, church on Sunday Christian. She was a dutiful housewife. She was a traditionalist in almost every regard. But she was a wonderful woman who wanted to keep me entertained as best as she could without resorting to horrible, lessons taught by mainstream media. So she would teach me, or she would give me like these videotapes of like McGee and Me. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of McGee and Me, but it was a Christian show for kids that had real life lessons being taught by this kid named Nick, who lived going through life with this kid named Nick, who had a make-believe friend named McGee that he would draw. And McGee would come to life and
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's actually, it holds up. Go check out McGee and Me. It holds up today.
All right, hang on.
I did.
Hang on. I'm going to go write this down next to my
for sure.
The Midnight Band and Lord Huron. McGee and Me?
McGee and Me.
Okay.
And but she also in that same vein, she wanted me to have a cool movie for me to watch or whatever. So she bought the British recreation of Narnia. And I grew up watching Aslan, and Peter and Susan. And I just fell in love with the Chronicles of Narnia. I ended up reading them as a kid because I just, whether it be The Magician's Nephew all the way down to The Last Battle, I loved Narnia, the entire thing. C.S. Lewis had such a way of writing that you could not get away from it once you started.
I agree completely. I mean, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yeah.
That I enjoyed so much that when the theatrical production of that came to my town, to the Cobb Civic Center, if you'll recall.
Yeah.
Right. My mom made sure that we went. I wasn't into theater or anything like that, you know.
Right.
I'm not Mr. Broadway here, but boy, I had to go see that. So you're absolutely right
Yeah.
on how that makes an impact.
But, well, yeah, that started me off as a kid. And then as an adult, I started realizing that C.S. Lewis was much more. Because he definitely, look, the Narnia books were an allegory for a lot of different things, and especially Christ. You know, Aslan obviously being an allegory for Christ. But then I started learning, like, he was a professor who wrote prolifically. You read his other stuff, you know, you read Mere Christianity, you read The Great Divorce, you read Screw Tape Letters, you know, The Problem with Pain. All of these books that just give you an insight into human nature and like how people think and feel about certain things and about how it all relates to God. You know, he looks at, because he's a former atheist. He's a former atheist. He started off as like this anti-God, I don't read the Bible kind of guy. And then he ended up getting into it. And next thing you know, since he looked at everything from a worldly perspective first, he was able to tie in God and like make it make sense to us who look at, who aren't taught what he was taught, who aren't taught, and not everyone learns Christianity.
Right.
Because they're so busy with the world. They look at everything, they think they're looking at it rationally or logically. And he's like, no, if you really want to look at it rationally and logically, check this out. Here's how God ties into this. This thing that you thought was had nothing to do with God has everything to do with God. Check it out. And it's amazing to me to actually sit there and read it, because it's like, oh my God, how did I not see that before?
He reverse engineered faith for himself. And it was able to help so many others see it from a different perspective, as opposed to growing up in the faith and trying to maintain it. He went the other way.
We're never taught as Christians to look at faith logically. You know, we're taught faith as like a mystical force.
That's
and like, and it's that old parent, saying of, well, do it because I told you to. Mm-hmm. You know, they look at the way that God's saying that, do that because I told you to, but they never stop to go, why did he say this? What was the logic behind it? Mm-hmm. What was the context? Is there some sort of reasoning that would make my life better? And if you really start to look into it, as Lewis did, you'll start to find out that God had a method to every bit of his madness.
Here's a not so fun fact, but something that comes to mind whenever I think of C.S. Lewis. Mm-hmm. He didn't get the fanfare, at least from what I've read. Obviously, neither of us were alive when he passed away, but he died the same day that John F. Kennedy was assassinated. And so he left this earth almost, that was just so second tier. People didn't really notice it from what I've read because it was overshadowed by the assassination of JFK. But his life, such an impact that continues to this day, like you said, with his very, I'm trying to think of the best word. I almost want to say logical writings, because,
and they are.
Yeah.
I mean, he looked at everything from a perspective of, how does this make sense in the real world? He took it on like Pascal took on science.
Ah, nice.
Yeah,
that's good.
There's a reason that this is happening, and I'm going to use science to prove what God did.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So C.S. Lewis, great writer. Mm-hmm. One of the goals you have in your lifetime is to write a book.
Yes.
What kind of book are you talking about?
Not a political one, but I feel like that's what it's going to be.
Oh, wait. So you don't have an idea? You don't have like the Great American Novel?
Oh, no. I have an idea. I write a lot. And for the longest time before I started writing politically, I would write fantasy. I would write fantasy a lot. And I have created 3 different worlds that I still, even now, just go and revisit from time to time in my head if I'm daydreaming, There's inspired by Narnia, I created my own world called Terratia. And
you sure you want to let this out right now if you don't have anything on paper yet?
Oh, I've been talking about this nonstop for years, but Terratia has it also has the allegories and stuff. It has giant wolves and they're semi-intelligent.
Okay.
Big adventures and ships, just like The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, which was my favorite Narnia book. it utilizes not just Christian themes, but I use a lot, just like Lewis did, of Greek and Roman themes.
Huh.
Like I reference like angels, which I call hands in there, so that it doesn't sound like angels, but angel of the sea, angel of lightning, angel of this and that, angel of the forest, these things that kind of put this big giant world into perspective, and like there's wars and intrigue and all this stuff. And I've been writing this for years and years and years, and I've never really started to write chapters, with the exception of maybe 4 of the very first book of a series of books. And it's supposed to cover from near the beginning of time to the end, and
So it sounds like you have quite a bit written down.
oh yeah, no, character names, what they do, how they interact.
So how much work would it take to really get this thing accomplished?
Probably 5 years of me just sitting down and writing nonstop. But I write a book every year in terms of how much I write on the political site Red State, and so a lot of my time is caught up around writing politics and culture and stuff like that. And I write pretty prolifically myself. I 4 or 5 articles to 6, 7 articles might appear on Red State in one day from me.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
I feel guilty keeping you here while we're talking.
No, it's all right. No, dude, there's one thing I do is I take a break when I can get it.
That's good. That's good. Okay.
But yeah, if I could, honestly, if I had the means to do it, if I had the money to do it, I would probably quit Red State for a while and go in. I would just seclude myself and just write these books. And I wouldn't stop with Teresia. I've got another one that, where animals talk to people, and like it's a secret thing, and they're having to stop with another. I don't know. And then there's another one that takes place from the Wild West all the way into the future.
Wow.
That concerns a guy who can't die. And like I've written all these worlds.
I thought for a second there, I thought you were describing Back to the Future.
No,
because
yeah, it's true.
Hold on now,
Marty.
So we just went through a list of really rich guys that you should reach out to if you want to,
Well, what? If anybody rich hears this and they want to fund my book, then go ahead and let's do it.
The Brandon Morse on Twitter. Reach out to him.
That's right.
Are your DMs open?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
They're wide open. In fact, I get a hard lesson about my open DMs every now and again because I get a lot of nasty text messages from people who are very angry about the things that I say. So.
Yeah, isn't it fun? It's fun.
Oh
so
yeah,
fun. So, do you have a timetable on when you want to get on these? Really making this official, or is it just? I'm talking about the books.
Right.
Yeah. Because you're 36, right?
Right.
And we talked off the air briefly. I said, just wait till you hit 40. Wait till you hit 40. Because then you're going to find, sports is much more difficult. It's like, seriously, somebody, I can't remember who, told me, boy, when you hit 40, and I was thinking, yeah, whatever, I'm going to push it. No, when you hit 40, sports becomes more difficult. Yard work becomes more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, walking to the mailbox becomes more difficult. So I'm just wondering, I almost feel like I'm only 8 years older than you, but I almost feel like I'm gonna be grandpa for just a second here.
Go ahead.
Brandon,
Yep.
it's easier said than done. But these dreams of like writing a book or something like that, get to them sooner rather than later.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had a screenplay over 20 years ago that I would carry around with me, and I would a little bit here, a little bit there. I don't know. I think I gave up and threw it away at some point. It's almost like I feel, and maybe this is just me, I feel like if you don't strike while your brain is on fire with these ideas, you might lose them.
Well, my brain has been on fire with these ideas since I was 17.
Yeah.
And the thing that, because I used to think that I wanted to, like the very first book I ever wrote, I shouldn't say book, but the very first story I ever wrote was about my dog and from his perspective. I don't know if you ever heard of Hank the Cow Dog.
Yeah, okay.
So that was like my first favorite series of all time when I was a kid.
Uh-huh.
I would read Hank the Cow Dog all the time in class, at home. And I decided I wanted to write my own Hank the Cow Dog. So I used my dog Lucky at the time, and he was a chow. So I called him Lucky the Chow Dog because, I'm creative like that. And I would just write this adventure that he would have, about like going to my grandparents' house and, finding his way across the country because I also lived Homeward Bound. Just this weird stuff that I would write. But the thing about the books that I'm writing right now is I'm glad that I wasn't able to compile these books when I was younger, because now looking back, I'm like, man, I didn't know anything about the world. And the older I get, the wiser I get, the more on fire for these books I become, because I want to impart the lessons that I learned, to whichever age group I'm writing to, like the one where the animals talk to people. Like that's one that I want to write for kids, the one about Teresia, that's an all ages kind of Harry Potter on to adulthood, age book. And then like the one where the guy, he can't die, that one is for adults. Who, no matter who I'm talking to, I want to be able to say something, and I can't say anything if I don't know anything. So the wisdom that I have acquired, and I'm not saying that I'm a wise person or that I'm super intelligent. That's not what I'm saying at all. But the knowledge that I have acquired over the time that I have lived, I feel like has been invaluable to these stories. And I think that there will come a point where I will just be able to, like, I have to get this down, and I will not be able to stop myself, and I will end up writing all of these books.
Do you think your art background might come in handy at some point, especially with the kids' books? Or
no, I'm not. I used to be relatively decent at drawing, but I haven't drawn in years. And all of my art goes now into creating videos and horrible Photoshops.
Okay. Horrible Photoshop.
Oh, they're horrible. But I use that as a feature, not a bug. It's like one of my favorite videos that I ever created was how you will never, or why socialism will never work. That's not the name of it. The actual name of it is how one horny guy collapsed socialism. But I used horrible photoshopping to tell this like animated story.
Where can people find this?
It's on my YouTube channel.
Okay, so what is your YouTube channel? Let's get that out there.
Yeah, it's just Brandon D. Morse out there. But I don't really create for that. And now I create for Town Hall. All my videos for Town Hall, and my videos. They cross the spectrum. Sometimes I'm funny, sometimes I'm serious. Sometimes I do bad Photoshops.
And that's life.
Yeah.
So where are all the places people can find you? I know at the Brandon Morse on Twitter and Parler. Where can they check out your political writings? You said the YouTube channel is Brandon D. Morse. Right.
But a lot of my political videos now appear on Town Hall's YouTube channel. And I have my own little list you can go through and
so the best thing to do would be to go to youtube.com/townhall.
Correct.
Okay.
Obviously I write at Red State, so you can find all of my writing there. I write more or less daily.
I think you should change your name to the prolific Brandon Morse.
The prolific Brandon
because
Morse.
You're everywhere, man. Right? Or the ubiquitous.
There you
Brandon
go.
Morse.
Ubiquitous. That was a good word.
Okay, so you mix that in there.
I will.
Well, I mean, did you ever listen to any traffic reports in Atlanta back in the day on AM 640 WGST? Keith Calland?
I didn't want to be depressed about.
I hear you. I was a nerd, man. I've been listening to talk radio since I was probably 12.
Yes,
I know. Right?
Yeah, you've been listening way longer than I have.
I'm a nerd. So, but there was a traffic reporter, Keith Calland. God rest his soul. Great guy. In fact, I worked with him briefly at WGST there in Atlanta. But every traffic report, there would always be a ladder on I-75 or I-285 or I-85 there in Atlanta. And whenever he would see that during his traffic report, he goes, "Oh, today's ubiquitous ladder in the roadway on I-285 near Paces Ferry in the right lane, so be watching for that." So ubiquitous has been one of my favorite words for the last 30 years now.
It's such a good, it really rolls off the tongue too.
Yes.
Ubiquitous.
Yes, and I think that's you.
Oh, thank you.
Because you're everywhere. You are the ubiquitous Brandon Morse.
I'm also and this is what I'm really most into right now. This is my favorite thing, is I'm at Twitch. I have a Twitch channel.
Oh.
Yeah.
See? I told you were ubiquitous.
Yeah.
So how do they find you on Twitch?
Twitch.tv/the Morse code. All one word.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
All one word.
There's so many fun things you can do with that name, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I've been abusing the hell out of it for years. Because I actually am related to that guy. I'm a direct descendant of Samuel F.B. Morse. Yep. Direct descendant of this guy. That is not a lie. Yep.
Sorry.
I don't know Morse code, so I have no idea. You could have just told me I'm like a giant slut.
Oh my gosh, you do know it. Anyway, anything we need to cover here that we haven't gotten to yet?
I like your beard. That's nice.
Wow.
It's coming in nice. I'm
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's uncomfortable, but thank you. No, it's not as full as yours. All right. It's not as full as yours.
Dude, don't make this weird, man.
No. It's
one
just
man complimenting another man's beard ain't weird.
Yeah, but the thing is, recently, And see, I'm going to date this podcast. Recently, I had the most full beard that I've ever had. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Not as good as yours is right now.
Okay.
So I shaved it off for the election.
Right.
Because I knew the election back in November was going to be dragged out.
Yeah.
This is before
I did too.
anything
Yeah.
happened. You just knew
Yep.
America, especially in 2020, wasn't just going to have a cut and dry election. All right, good night, everybody. It's election night. Here's our winner. See you tomorrow. So I said I shaved on election day. And I didn't really announce this at the time, but I shaved on election day. And I said, I'm not going to shave again until we get this thing solved.
Right.
Okay. And so, depending on when this podcast drops, I may or may not have facial hair. You know what? I could be a lost member of the band ZZ Top by the time this thing drops, considering how the election plays out.
I would love to see that. You just walk in. What's up, Brandon? It's like, who the hell? Oh, what's up, Keith?
Oh, so we still don't have a certified winner of the election, huh? I can tell by the fact that your beard is dragging on the floor. Anyhow, all right. Brandon Morse, check him out. He's all over the place. He's ubiquitous.
I am.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm ubiquitous.
All right.
Apparently, I like it.
We appreciate you. Thank you so much for making time today on At the Mic, buddy.
Thank you for having me. This was a blast.
Yes, sir.
That was a fun conversation. I hope you enjoyed getting to know Brandon as much as I did. And by the way, we recorded this episode way back in early November, and I decided to keep that election beard for now. We'll see how long it lasts. I kind of grew attached to it, so we'll see. If you need a convenient place on the web for all things At the Mic, I hope you'll head over to atthemicshow.com. atthemicshow.com. You'll find archived episodes, links to all the platforms you can hear the show through, along with social media links so you can see who's coming up on the podcast. If you feel so moved and would like to support the podcast, it's completely independent. There is a Buy Me a Cup of Coffee link that you may be interested in. No pressure. Any support is appreciated. Speaking of support, our first ever sponsor, American Pride Roasters Coffee, would appreciate your business. Great people there. You can find that 10% off promo code. It's listed on atthemicshow.com. In case you forget it, the offer code is ATM. Get you 10% off when you get ready to check out at aprcoffee.com. Hey, thanks so much for checking out episode 36 of At the Mic as we begin season number 2. I really hope my voice improves to 100% real soon. And I am so grateful for your patience. Until next time, thank you so much for listening to At the Mic.
This has been At the Mic with Keith, an independent podcast production. Look for At the Mic Show on Twitter to connect.